Hi, this is Jenny from Woodman Controls. This video is all about floor plans and how we can edit a location node in our Envysion graphics. First thing first, we're in on our project tree in the Navigation Builder tile. We're going to bring a location node over to our project tree. Careful where you drop it. Watch where your little line is. We want it all the way at the bottom here. Once it's dropped, edit it further with a right click and a left on edit. Give it a name. Icons can be fun if it's something special. It can be a pop-up. Hit apply. And then go into Page and Data Creator. And you'll notice initially there's nothing here. It's a gray box, but we're going to click it, make it white. White picture box there. And the first thing we want to do is put our background image. I usually just drop an image in. This gear here, you can add padding, top, right, bottom, left. Oops, too much. There we go. Zones is the next layer here. We were in image. Now we're in zones. And it gets a little tricky here in zones. Not only do you have these three layers across the top, but within zones there are layers. You can see this is a button here, Layer Manager, and there are tabs across the top. I find it very helpful to go ahead and set up tabs for every layer that exists on this location node. And on this one, there's only two, Default and HVAC. Which, if you're confused, you can come into the Layer Manager and see how many layers. If there was another layer, it would be a group. We hit OK. Come out here. Now there's another layer. But we don't need another layer. First button here on the left is our Draw Zone button. And this you're going to lay down points that make the corners or that make the shape of the zone you want to capture. We can do a complicated one. And basically what you're aiming for is to capture in your shading an entirety of 1 unit's area of control. A double click at the end there stops the draw. Go back to your arrow. If one of your points was off, which you can sort of see that little corner there is, the next button down is Edit Vertices, and you can tweak it. And back to your arrow. I always make sure to draw these zones on the HVAC layer as opposed to the default layer, because you're not going to set up any colors for the default layer. The HVAC layer, what has the colors. Edit properties, bind data. You can change some of the coloring, the shades. The most important thing is to drag on the piece of equipment. Widget binding success. Whichever piece of equipment you drag into your shaded zone tells it what variable to use for that layer's coloring. Each template, each graphic template has a setup here in your Layer Manager where you tell this layer for that template which point to use. It's a little tricky. It gets easier once you think about it. So we've got a zone. You can continue to draw your zones all the way across. And that's how that's set up. Go to the next layer. If there's another layer, you have to draw the zones again in that layer. You can't draw all the zones on the H. Like if we still had that test layer, we would go to the test tab, draw those zones, so there would be two different drawings of zones, if that makes sense. And that's zones. Widgets. Again, you do have the layers here. If there was a widget that you wanted on a particular layer, you can do that. I tend to put most of my widgets on this default layer, but I can see where it could be helpful. So that's there. One of the things we often put, this is where we get our weather widget from. We always put a layer selection tool, and this one needs further editing. Tell it the default layer. When this graphic first comes up, which layer do you want just automatically to show? And then the other thing we often do, if we have things like exhaust fans or lights, we can drag in some of these indicators. That was really small. And drive to a point. We're on the backnet here in the central plant. I think I've got, very good, a Boolean point. Ideally it would be the status point of the piece of equipment. And if you're curious what you've dragged on, of course there's the blue dot to check it out. There's also a red coloring if your device has an alarm. And let's pretend this is an exhaust fan, F3. You can change coloring there too. So that is all of the layers here in our location node. Let's save and take a look at what we've done here. All the way down here. You can see our zone. You can see that we've assigned it to DOASA, which is looking at space temp, and would display this coloring. We could switch layers if there were other layers through our widget here. Here's our little exhaust fan, EF3. So that's your location floor plan. Lots of layers, layers within layers. Just keep it all straight. Always check which layer you're on and what you're trying to do. It should do just fine. Thanks for watching.